Dad's words cut like a blade wrapped in smugness. "We're not your bank anymore," he snapped, arms crossed, eyes glittering with the kind of satisfaction that only comes from thinking you've won a war no one else agreed to fight. Mom didn't bother chiming in. She just sipped her tea with her pinky raised like a queen on her throne, watching me pack up my books from the kitchen table as though I were an overstaying guest instead of their child. No warning, no compassion, just exile served with burnt toast and orange juice. "You're 23. Time to grow up. Be grateful for what we've already done," Dad added like a closing argument. By 10:04 that morning, I was standing on the sidewalk with my duffel bag slung over my shoulder, one cracked sandal threatening to fall apart, and a dead phone battery. By 4:17 that same day, in a dingy cafe near a gas station, my phone finally powered back on. A notification popped up, an email from Jonathan, the man who had managed my family's trust for years. "Hi, Isla. Just got the recurring transfer request. $15,000 monthly allowance to your parents. Should I approve like usual?" I stared at the screen. Then my lips curved. I typed one word, denied. "My name is Isla Hart. I'm 23. And if you think you can predict what happens next, you're wrong. Because this story isn't about losing everything. It's about realizing the people who raised me underestimated me. And about reminding them where the real power lies. They thought they had shut the door in my face. What they didn't realize was that I held the keys to the rest of the house. I didn't cry that night. I didn't toss and turn. I calculated. Their voices replayed in my head like static. "We're not your bank. You owe us. We sacrificed everything for you." As if my life was an itemized bill they were waiting for repayment on. But here's what they never figured out. The trust fund wasn't theirs. It had never been theirs. My grandfather, my mother's father, the man she barely spoke about, left everything to me when he passed. Not a cent to them. He made Jonathan promise to keep it quiet until my 23rd birthday, 3 days ago. So when I pressed denied, I wasn't just cutting off their monthly allowance. I was flipping the entire table they had been eating off for years. The next morning, I signed a lease for a small downtown apartment. My name on the contract. My space. No roommates, no chaos, just silence and the delicious weight of independence. By Friday, my phone lit up. A text from Mom. "Isla, darling, your father's heart meds are out of stock at the usual pharmacy. Could you please?" I didn't let her finish. I typed back, "Maybe it's time you grow up. You're 52. Then I powered off my phone and lit a candle that night, not for peace, but to mark the moment I would never forget. The sound of silence when people finally realize the ATM has learned to say no. By Sunday, the panic had set in. My inbox pinged nonstop, emails full of sugary greetings covering raw desperation. Subject lines read, "Quick family check-in. Hey, small favor? Just wondering about the mortgage." Mortgage? I almost laughed. They had refinanced their second vacation home. Yes, the one with the hot tub and the tacky live laugh love sign in the bathroom, against my trust fund. And now they wanted me to keep it afloat. I forwarded every email to Jonathan. Instructions clear. No more auto approvals. No more loopholes. No more lies. Then came the discovery that hardened me. An old Dropbox folder Jonathan had once shared sat gathering dust. I opened it and found line after line of transactions. $8,700 for Mom's spa getaway. $4,200 for Dad's business seminar in Vegas. $19,600 in luxury furniture. $2,100 labeled school donation in my name to an institution I'd never heard of. They had turned me into their personal credit card while calling me entitled for asking for a little help during college. While giving me speeches about financial maturity, they were funneling my inheritance into their vanity projects. So I started drafting a letter, not to them, to everyone they wanted to impress. Aunt Carol, Uncle Bennett, Cousin Shelby with her lake house. The letter would be calm, factual, polite. Attached would be the transaction records, every luxury expense charged against their daughter's future. Not revenge, just truth. But I held off sending it. I'd wait until they pushed one step further. And I knew they would. It happened the following Wednesday. A voicemail came in from an unknown number. I let it roll over to speaker as I brushed my hair. Hi, Isla. It's Pastor Reynolds. I've been asked to officiate your parents' vow renewal this Sunday. I understand you're covering the reception costs again. That's very generous. The comb froze in my hand. Reception costs again. I opened my banking app. No transactions. Relief. Then I checked the trust back-end system. And there it was. A pending invoice for $11,500. That was the moment I decided their game was over. The catering deposit came through, authorized for my parents' vow renewal. Just 2 days after my father's "we're not your bank" tirade. I stared at the notification on my screen, first stunned, then laughing. Not the kind of laugh that warms the chest, but the hollow, static sort that scratches the back of your throat. The hypocrisy was almost comical. He had called me entitled while his fingers were busy sliding across digital accounts that didn't belong to him. Jonathan, my financial advisor, had already flagged the transaction, waiting for my approval. I hit reject without hesitation. Then, on an impulse, I drafted an email to Pastor Reynolds. Dear Pastor, there seems to be a misunderstanding. I will not be attending the vow renewal, nor am I sponsoring the event. Wishing them a meaningful day regardless. Regards, Isla Hart. 2 hours later, my phone lit up with a message from Mom. Why would you humiliate us like this? Do you realize how this makes us look? Family will talk. Isla. I read her words carefully before typing my reply. Then give them something worth talking about. In that moment, something inside me shifted. This wasn't rebellion anymore, it was reclamation. By Thursday morning, the silence set in. No texts, no late-night calls, no frantic justifications. With my parents, silence was never peace. It was the beating of a war drum. I tried to shake the tension with a walk through the park, but halfway down the trail, Jonathan called. Hey, Isla, he said. Your parents filed a request with the family attorney. They want the trust restructured, claiming financial dependence. They're framing it as repayment for parental investment and long-term caregiving. Should I shut it down? My breath caught. They weren't just asking for money anymore. They were rewriting history. Pretending they had raised me without help, as if I owed them royalties for every diaper, every piano lesson, every supposed sacrifice etched into their mental ledger. It might have been laughable if it weren't so sinister. Because it wasn't about finances, it was about control. And losing that control was making them frantic. Proceed legally, I told Jonathan. Full audit. Timeline of inheritance. Every receipt. Paper trails never lie. People do. And my parents had perfected the art of smiling while cutting you open. I knew their next move would be public. That was their weapon of choice. Shame delivered as spectacle. Manipulation dressed as performance. So I prepared. I locked down my social media, saved every bank transfer and email, printed them neatly, organized by date. If they wanted a stage, I would build the spotlight myself. And when they walked into it, they'd have no script, no applause. Only paper cuts and truth. Sunday arrived. Their grand vow renewal. The spectacle of the season. I didn't attend, of course, but I tuned into the live stream. Because yes, they live streamed it. Mom in a champagne-colored gown. Dad smug in his tuxedo, fiddling with cufflinks like a man still convinced he held the reins. The cousins clapped, the friends posted stories, old acquaintances commented, what a testament to love. True commitment always wins. They had no idea. No idea the caterer had pulled out last minute. No idea the florist had sued for a bounce check. No idea the reception venue had refused them entry because the payments never cleared. I had cut the pipeline dry. They couldn't siphon gold from a well they'd already poisoned. Still, they tried to mask the collapse. They grinned through it, sipping sparkling cider and pretending it was champagne, as if appearances alone could rewrite reality. They held it together until Monday. That's when my letter arrived in every guest's mailbox. A calm, respectful statement. No drama, no venom, just facts. Bank statements, emails, receipts laid out cleanly. And at the end, one personal note. Love does not demand repayment. Manipulation does. I've chosen to walk away from both. By Tuesday, the family group chat was in flames. Cousins shall be messaged. They told us you were unstable. But this is precision. Uncle Bennett called just to say softly, "You did the right thing, sweetheart." Mom tried calling me 12 times. I let the phone ring. Silence would teach her what words never could. Wednesday morning, a knock on my door. I checked the peephole. Jonathan, not in his usual suit, but in jeans and a hoodie. He handed me a manila envelope. Inside, a handwritten note from my father. Not an apology. Nothing close. Just, "We're disappointed. We raised you better. Money isn't everything, Isla. Family is. You'll regret this when we're gone." Signed only Dad. No love, no warmth, just guilt disguised as legacy. I folded the paper until it was a perfect square of emptiness, slid it into a drawer. Not to keep, but as a reminder. Then I turned to Jonathan. "Ready?" He nodded. We headed straight to the estate attorney's office. I'd already requested the meeting. That day, I added a new clause. If I passed before 40, none of the funds would revert to my parents. Instead, they'd go to a scholarship for young women from emotionally manipulative homes. My direct rewrite of their narrative, one they couldn't erase. That night, I lit another candle. Not for memory this time, for release. The house I grew up in had never been a home. It was a chandeliered vault. But now I had something better. Solitude. Stability. Silence. The kind that doesn't punish. It just exists. At midnight, Mom texted again. "One day you'll understand what it means to be a parent." I stared at the screen, then powered off my phone. The real inheritance wasn't wealth. It was freedom. And I wasn't giving it back. The seasons shifted. Fall painted the trees in gold and wrapped my life in quiet. I began volunteering at a community legal aid office. Nothing glamorous, just listening. Sitting with people who, like me, had been told they were too expensive simply for existing. One afternoon I met Marcy, 18, her cheeks still streaked with dried tears. "My mom says I'm ungrateful," she whispered, "that I ruined her credit. But she used my name to buy a car." I reached into my bag and slid a paper across the table. Not cash, not tissues. A blank financial boundaries template, signed with authority, labeled hers. The same form I had filed months earlier, the one that freed me. Hope flickered in her eyes. That's when I realized revenge doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, in courtrooms, in scholarships, in clean documents handed to someone convinced their story is already over. I never returned home. I didn't need to. My parents still throw parties, still pose for photographs, still cling to names they once used to mock me. But something has changed. The invitation stopped. The frantic emergency calls went silent. For the first time, they were truly alone. Not because I left, but because I stopped funding the illusion. Justice didn't come draped in vengeance. It arrived clothed in boundaries, delivered through clarity, sealed by truth. And that evening, in my small apartment, candle glowing, tea warming my hands, I felt it. Not rage, not sorrow, peace, the kind you earn,